Hey there, D.Va is getting more and more popular in the current season due to the meta heavily favoring dive compositions. She's a strong pick in any composition if you handle her kit well. We're presenting you an in-depth guide with the help of Mindfuzz, a top 500 D.Va player and fellow YouTuber to make sure that you can use D.Va to her highest potential. Alright, let's do this. Hello guys and welcome to the Dojo. First of all, let us introduce Mindfuzz, our collaborator for this episode. He's an educated YouTuber just like us. He's comfortable playing almost all heroes in game but specializes in off tanks. With most of his playtime on D.Va and a top 500 place maining her, he can be considered an expert on D.Va's usage and kit both in solo competitive and in scrims. We're going to heavily rely on the expertise of Mindfuzz for this D.Va in-depth guide. He managed to breach top 500 in the NA region, so we can surely tell you that he's quite knowledgeable in this topic. Enough talking, let's get straight to the guide. D.Va has had her ups and downs, but she's in a really strong position currently. If we look at the pick rates, we can see that she's the go-to tank character in many ranks, including Grandmaster tier. According to these statistics, more and more players are preferring D.Va and Winston instead of going to previous favorite Reinhardt.
Yeah, D.Va's so strong right now mostly because of her defense matrix, which is an easy to understand ability with tons of applications. She has 4 seconds where she deletes all incoming damage except for heroes with beam weapons like Zarya, Symmetra, Mei, and Winston. Thanks to her boosters, which are on a 6-second cooldown, she's the most mobile tank in the entire game.
Just so. And mobility is very important now as the dive meta is in its golden age. Not only do pro teams run different variations of the dive comps with Winston, Tracer, Genji, Pharah, Lucio, Sombra, and other fast heroes, but it's also more popular on all levels of solo queue rather than run slow compositions. However, D.Va can also be really strong in slow comps too.
Yeah, her ability to protect teammates is second to none, and she can also use her matrix to eat enemy ultimates, which is easy if you know they're coming. She's incredibly difficult to kill and can swap from blocking damage to dealing damage in an instant. Also, because she's so dynamic and flexible, D.Va's skill ceiling is quite high, and a good D.Va player can offer tons of benefits to a coordinated team. Overall, she fits really well into the meta, enabling teammates to engage quickly and disabling enemies from killing people with good focus fire.
That explains her pick rate in the current season. She's in a good spot to be the go-to solution when the team needs a good caretaker tank. While there are things that need high level of game sense, for example expecting ults and eating them, she can be easy to get started with and master with time. Even in an uncoordinated solo queue, she can do a lot for her team if handled correctly. D.Va is a good pick in most scenarios, however she's best used filling in the secondary tank role. It's really hard to tank with her alone, so that setup should be avoided. It cripples D.Va's ability to play as a disruptor tank, rendering her to be a hitbox dummy every now and then when her shield is depleted.
That's right, D.Va is dependent on her team. While she may be able to get solo kills in 1v1 situations and to keep 1 or 2 enemies occupied, she is not a DPS. She can be used to carry games, but that usually needs good DPS that you need to protect and create space for.
So it's best to pick D.Va when there's already a tank and you need mobility and versatility. There is no best setup as the game always changes, however this can serve as a general recommendation.
It's also important to realize when you're getting hard countered. If the enemy team has a Zenyatta and a few beam-based heroes like Zarya, Symmetra, or Winston, you may be better off swapping. You can't really shield much against those comps, and they're able to damage you easily and charge their ultimates quickly.
Okay, so now let's quickly go over her kit and talk about the usage of the abilities in different situations. It's important that you pay attention to the small details, as the usage of her kit makes the difference between usual and great D.Va players.
First of all, let's talk about her passive. D.Va's passive means that once you're taken below 600 health, instead of dying, you exit your mech and get a chance to deal enough damage to call down another mech. You're very weak when outside of your mech, as you only have 150 health and don't do much damage. D.Va's passive is interesting in that it is very high risk, high reward.
High risk as she has a really small health pool and goes down quickly if targeted. However, the baby D.Va has a very small hitbox, so she's hard to kill usually. A few headshots with the Bunny Blaster can make a lot of damage to help her team, and to get back the mech more quickly.
Yes, with D.Va you're well suited for stalling objectives since enemies essentially have to kill you twice. However, skilled enemies will often leave you alive at the end of the fight and refuse to kill you, opting to force you to kill yourself or run back into spawn and swap heroes to get your mech back quickly.
Yeah, staggering like this will most likely only happen in higher ranks, but it can get the team a few valuable seconds. You need to decide if you can do enough damage to quickly get the mech back, or sacrifice yourself, either by getting killed quickly or jumping down the map.
A lot of people underestimate how difficult it is to kill a baby D.Va, so I think it's important to talk about movement. When you get knocked out of your mech, your hitbox is among the smallest in the entire game, meaning that enemies have to have really excellent aim in order to hit you. If you alternate between moving left and right, as well as crouching occasionally, you can make it even more difficult for them. Your goal isn't necessarily to kill enemies when doing this, it's to spam enough shots to charge your mech while making it as difficult as possible for the other team to kill you. Be warned though, try not to jump very much as your jump arc is predictable and enemies with good aim will be able to kill you faster.
Also, make sure to hide behind terrain when you start recalling your mech, because a good team can react quickly to your robot from the sky and kill you quickly before you're even able to activate the shields again. A quick tip for better survivability: when you do lose the mech, turn in a way that helps you ejecting out of harm's way. D.Va catapults backwards, and you can use this to get away in the heat of battle. Okay, the next one is D.Va's fusion cannons. It has infinite ammo, which makes it a special primary fire. These don't do much damage at range, so you can tell that these aren't made for poking and sniping enemies from afar.
That's right. If you're further than 15 meters away, you're probably better off either matrixing their shots, boosting into them, or running away. However, up close, D.Va's damage is quite respectable, especially if the enemy doesn't have any armor. Heroes like Roadhog are quite easy for D.Va to kill, so don't be afraid to get in people's faces to kill them a lot faster. It's important to remember that damage dealing isn't your primary duty though. The thing you want to focus on more than anything else is your defense matrix, so let's talk about that.
Alright, D.Va's bread and butter is her shield. This affects how teamfights are played, and this is the reason why she's so popular right now. It can block shots from almost every hero in the game and eat a lot of ultimates. Learning the timing of the shields is a vital skill for D.Va players, and it's important not to waste any of it.
Try to avoid eating lots of random poke damage, since if you do it too much, you won't have your matrix available when you need it. Trash damage isn't going to lose the fight. Focus damage will. Make sure to save it for key moments, like when an enemy soldier uses his tactical visor, or when your Winston jumps into the middle of their team, or when your Pharah needs some protection as she uses her barrage. Defense Matrix is a Swiss Army knife in that it has tons of uses and there are always new ways to use it.
If you're chasing an Ana, you can use it to eat her grenade when she tries to heal herself. If there's a Zarya trying to get a Graviton Surge on your team, you can Matrix it away. If Reinhardt's going to charge his Earth Shatter with Fire Strikes, you can eat them and prevent him from getting ult.
A common technique that I use to make sure I always have a good amount of matrix is called flashing. It's where you use your matrix for the minimum amount of time before putting it down. It's excellent for just eating poke damage while making sure you're not using too much. You do this by simply clicking mouse 2 rather than actually holding it down. Your matrix will flash for about half a second before going back down to recharge. There are times when you want to use the entire matrix all at once though, such as if an enemy is using their ult and you need to eat the entire thing, or one teammate is in a vulnerable position and needs time to move into a better spot. Always remember that your matrix is your strongest ability and is the most important skill to master.
Okay, the next ability is her boosters. This is a versatile ability that provides mobility in both aggressive and defensive situations. D.Va's boosters make her the most mobile tank in the game, meaning that she can get in many different places in a short amount of time. They have a lot of uses. You can boost with your Winston to make sure that once his bubble goes down, he has enough protection that he won't die immediately. If your Winston goes down, then there's very little pressure on the enemy's backline, and your DPS heroes likely won't be able to pick up many kills.
You can also jump up on high ground to contest an enemy soldier or Widowmaker. Taking a 1v1 with a soldier can be difficult since his damage output is quite high and it will be easy for him to score headshots when you're right in his face. Try to make sure you're not taking the fight unless you know you can win. Instead, just try to annoy him and buy time for your team. You can do this by alternating between shooting him and flashing your matrix over him. Widowmaker is a lot easier to kill on her own since her SMG doesn't do as much damage and she doesn't have a self-heal.
Another good use for your boosters is to knock people off ledges. This is pretty common on maps like Dorado, where defending teams will often set up on high ground and shoot at you from above. You can boost into them and knock them off the ledge, forcing them to take a fight when they're not ready.
You can also use your boosters just to stay alive a bit longer since they make you move quickly and give you lots of air control. Make sure to fly in unpredictable patterns when you're stalling an objective to make it harder for enemies to kill you. Use your boosters to go where your team needs you most. Alright, lastly some words about D.Va's ultimate ability. It can be difficult to pick up kills with D.Va's ultimate since it has such a long wind-up time, but you can change that by knowing how to throw your ult properly. First, make sure you're putting it exactly where you want it. You do this by flying directly at the area where you want it to land, then immediately flicking straight up and pressing your ult key. This places your ult in the exact horizontal position where you flicked upwards and can be used to place your ult on ledges and payloads.
You can also use it to get your mech back in the middle of a fight. This is risky, but sometimes you just need to stay alive, and ulting to regenerate your mech quickly can give you the upper hand. When you regen your mech with your ult, all your cooldowns are reset. So if you boost it into the middle of the fight and you have no matrix left, it might be worth using your ultimate when you die simply to get a nice reset on your resources. Your defense matrix is much more valuable than your ultimate, so don't be afraid to use it just for a mech regen. It's important to know that when you're out of your mech, you're quite vulnerable. Most enemies will likely run away from your ult to make sure that they stay alive, but more skilled enemies might just kill you before taking cover, which kind of negates the purpose of ulting in the first place, so be careful.
I've found that standing inside of my bomb while it's about to go off usually helps to ward enemies away. Lastly, you can also use your ult to zone out enemies, like if you need to clear them off of the cart so that you can push it the last few meters, or if you need to force an ulting Genji away from your team. Using it in enclosed spaces with lots of cover is dangerous since enemies will be able to get away easily, but if you use it in open spaces, it's much more likely to either kill someone or force them to back all the way off. If you're trying to pick up kills with your ultimate, it combos really well with setup ults like Earth Shatter and Graviton Surge. If you don't have another ult for a combo though, make sure you're using your ult at the right time. You don't want to use it too early because enemies will be able to back off easily. You also don't want to use it too late, because even if you kill 2 or 3 with it, the fight might have already been lost.
You want to make sure that you're using it in the middle of the fight, where both teams have fully committed to trying to kill each other, but it's not sure who will win. Overall, I think it's important to remember that D.Va's ult is more of a utility ult than an offensive ult. It's usually better to use it to aid your team indirectly than trying to actually pick up kills. Okay, now that we know her kit, we can dive deeper into her usage in a team setting. Let's see when it's a good idea to pick D.Va.
D.Va is good in almost every team composition since Defense Matrix is so flexible and useful. She's really good against hit-scan heroes like Soldier and McCree. She can occupy Pharmacy for enough time that her team can win the ground war. She can prevent Roadhog from being able to follow up on his hooks. She can block Ana's healing shots and abilities. One of the few times I consider swapping is if the other team is running Zarya and Zenyatta. Zarya's beam goes straight through D.Va's Defense Matrix, and when Zenyatta discords you, you can melt away really quickly. D.Va also gets shut down by Sombra quite easily. If she manages to get a hack off on you, you're completely immobile for 6 seconds and you have no way to block incoming damage, making it very likely that you get demacked and killed. If the enemy team has a Sombra who is getting a lot of hacks off, I'd probably swap heroes. I also avoid picking D.Va if there isn't a lot of high ground to contest. King's Row is a good example of a map where D.Va isn't optimal since it's mostly a series of hallways without much open space.
Teammates that work really well with D.Va are Winston, Tracer, Pharah, Genji, since D.Va is just as mobile as any of them and can dive with them. D.Va's only real weakness is that she depends on her team a lot more than most other heroes. Zarya can just get to high energy and kill everyone, whereas D.Va's killing power is substantially less. The best time to pick D.Va is when the DPS players on your team are strong. If your team synergy is weak and there's little coordination, then D.Va might not be the best pick. Let's talk about D.Va's role.
D.Va's role can change depending on what your team is running and what the enemy team is running. For example, if you're running a slow, heavy comp without much mobility like Reinhardt, Roadhog, Ana, Mercy, Soldier, D.Va's job is going to mostly be jumping on enemies that are out of position and controlling high ground with her Soldier. In a more mobile, flexible comp like Winston, Pharah, Tracer, Lucio, Mercy, her duty changes to making sure her teammates are protected when they go in. Winston will need protection when his bubble pops, and Pharah will need protection when she uses her ult.
D.Va also should be played a little differently depending on which enemy you're trying to shut down. When playing against a pharmacy, your job isn't necessarily to kill them, but annoy them and occupy enough of their time so that they aren't able to attack your team. Matrixing some of their rockets and flying in their face when they try to ignore you is what will keep them occupied long enough for your team to win the ground war. McCree is pretty simple to kill. Just get directly in his face, eat his flashbang, and kill him outright. He doesn't have the mobility or self-sustain of Soldier, so he should die pretty easily. When playing against Roadhog, you want to make sure that you're always aware of where he is and who he's targeting. Anytime he gets a hook, you should be looking to matrix it and punish it. His overall DPS is substantially lower after his nerf, so in a straight 1v1, you should be able to kill him quite easily. Soldier is difficult since he can just out-damage you in a straight 1v1. Instead of trying to kill him, just try to occupy him for enough time for your team to deal with him, or try engaging him with another teammate to help you pick up the kill.
Another interesting topic is premades and how to coordinate with your teammates. If you're looking to duo or trio queue with other players, there are a few heroes that you should consider playing with her. She complements Winston really well since he's able to zap multiple enemies at the same time and she's able to protect him from being killed immediately.
She also works really well with an Ana since she usually takes a lot of damage, which can be used to build Ana's ultimate very quickly. She can also matrix her Ana if she's being focused, allowing her to reposition and get to safety. She also pairs really well with a Tracer or Genji. D.Va can jump in and apply pressure, allowing your DPS to get some kills without being focused too hard. All of them are highly mobile and can work together as a mini dive team to pick one particular enemy and focus them down.
As far as countering D.Va goes, the only real way to deal with a good D.Va is by surrounding her and focusing her. If you put enemies all around D.Va, then she has to choose which enemy to matrix, since she can't matrix them all at the same time. This usually leads to her being unable to avoid being knocked out of her mech, which leaves her exposed and easily killed.
You can also run as a Zenyatta and a beam hero in order to go straight through her matrix. A common hero to run against D.Va is Zarya, since at high energy she's able to kill D.Va quite fast, and there's not a lot that D.Va can do about it. Overall, the best way to deal with the skill D.Va is to just make sure that everyone's focusing her at the same time. It takes good coordination to bring down D.Va, but it's not impossible.
Sometimes it's easier to try and avoid the D.Va. She's pretty huge and bulky, and everything that she does can be heard from far away. Her presence should never surprise you if you pay attention. It's important to play around her when you can't directly deal with her.
That's what we had for you together with Mindfuzz. If you enjoyed our collab, like, subscribe, and share on our channel. And don't forget to visit Mindfuzz. You can do so by clicking on the card right now. Join the Dojo's Discord and have a nice chat with our ever-growing community. See you guys next time.